Today we're going to be exploring one of my favorite dishes, gnocchi. And as a variation, we're going to use sweet potato instead of potato. Gnocchi is basically potato and flour. That's all the ingredients are in it. And we're going to serve it with a beautiful pesto made with cilantro. So what I do is I actually bake the sweet potato in the oven. And this gives you an advantage because there will be less moisture in the potatoes, which will give you a lighter gnocchi. It won't be so stodgy. So simply mash the sweet potato in a bowl like this. You need a couple of sweet potatoes. They take about 35 minutes to bake. Take the peel off. Mash it like that. And we're going to add flour to this, but this is a gluten-free recipe. And therefore, we're not going to use wheat. We're using almond flour instead. Now you might not have heard of this, but almond flour, not in gnocchi anyway, almond flour gives a wonderful flavor. The combination of almond flour with sweet potato is just fabulous. So you need about a cup of that, and then also about a cup of gluten-free flour. This could be anything. This could be amaranth flour, it could be quinoa flour. So many different gluten-free flours out there. So about a cup of that. And then for flavor, we're going to add some thyme. Got this beautiful thyme here. Very Italian. And be generous with the thyme. And you see, thyme comes on these stalks, so you don't want the stalks to be in there. So if you've got the patience, just pull off these little thyme leaves. Let them fall into the potato and the flour there. And you need some salt. We're using Himalayan salt, which is actually herb salt. It's got a few herbs like bay leaves and marjoram in it. And you can put some pepper in it, like. So you want most things you're going to be seasoning. And then the spice that we're using, just one spice today, is some turmeric. The turmeric has some amazing health benefits, especially for the mind. It improves most of the cognitive skills like memory, and it can even slow down the aging process of the mind apparently. But it is well known as an antioxidant and anti-inflammatory. So be generous with turmeric in your food and you're going to get some benefits over time. So you see, I am basically mashing the sweet potato with the flour here, and already it starts to, the texture changes and you get this somewhat dough-like ball, and it looks quite nice already because it's orange, and then you've got these little green speckles in from the thyme. So you need a good bowl and you need a good spoon for this. So then once you've mashed those together and it doesn't look too sticky, if it looks too sticky, then add a little bit more flour. There's nothing wrong with that. Just add a bit of extra flour. And you need some flour for rolling this up, because we're going to roll this and knead it slightly. So just once it's got to that stage, it's nice and blended and dough-like, then sprinkle your board with some flour like this. This is not wheat flour, again, it's gluten-free flour. And spoon out some dough onto the board like this, and give it a little bit of a knead, like this, with your hands. You've got to knead with your hands, so make sure your hands are nice and clean. And that looks great. So the flour will stop it sticking to the board there. So you need a good largish board for this kneading, and you only really need to knead this for a few minutes like that. And then the next stage is you want to actually roll this out into tube-like shapes, a bit like this. So maybe cut a piece, and if your board gets too sticky, then don't worry, just a little bit more flour. and just begin to roll it out like this, like a kind of like a sausage. Vegan sausage, of course. And once it gets to a thickness of about 1 inch, then you're in business, because that's what you need. Now this gnocchi is going to be plunged into boiling water, so I've turned on the water for that, and to get a pot of water into a boil, and once it gets to a size like that, it's like a snake, then you can cut it. So take your knife, and you want a clean knife, so, and also you can sprinkle flour on the knife, because you're going to cut this without it sticking. So cut it into pieces that are this kind of size, gnocchi size, and more flour on the knife if it sticks. It does stick. Cut them like this. So they're almost like 1 inch square sizes. And then you get a fork, and you press your fork into each gnocchi like this, just making a little line shape like that. And then before you plunge them into the boiling water, we're actually going to refrigerate them for about 5 minutes. So pop them into the fridge. Now once you've chilled your gnocchi, see how beautiful they're going to be, a little bit firmer. You're just going to drop them or pop them into some boiling water. So you want to salt the water with your herb salt, and just, you know, slide them in like that. The water should be a nice rolling boil. And these only take maybe 5 minutes to cook, and you know that they're ready when they actually rise. So while these are cooking, we're going to make this cilantro pesto, which is delightful. So get yourself some beautiful fresh organic cilantro like this, and chop a nice chunk of like this, and just chop it into nice small pieces like this. So that's the first thing you need, finely chopped cilantro. And then we're going to blend this with some olive oil and some lemon and some walnuts, and that's really a very simple pesto. Okay, that's fine like that. So we're going to do this in a gnocchi bullet actually. So pour in some olive oil like this. Got a beautiful Spanish organic olive oil here. Be generous with the olive oil, about a cup, should be good. And maybe just, you know, squeeze in some lemon, you know, maybe about a tablespoon of lemon juice, like that. A little salt, a little black pepper, adding a touch of green leek, just a little bit, and some walnuts. You could use pine nuts, just a few nuts, and then your cilantro goes in. And when you blend this, just blend it very briefly. This doesn't need to be perfectly blended, so there's no sort of coarseness and no lumps. So I've just got the belly there. And then put that in a nice bowl. So just put it on one side. in. So you see how it's a little bit chunky there, and I think that's great to have a little bit of texture to your pesto. All right, see how green that is? It's like an emerald green, absolutely gorgeous. That cilantro pesto. Now, if you just want to pan over to the gnocchi, you'll see that it's starting to float. So it just floated to the surface, and that's great because that means they're just about ready. See how they're all floating beautifully? So then take a plate, another plate with a nice little slotted sieve here, and you can put them on some kitchen paper like this, preferably bleach-free, recycled, and let the gnocchis just sit there for a little, just to kind of dry a bit, because we've got another stage that we're going to put these gnocchi through, which is going to make them just a little bit extra delicious. And what that stage is we're going to actually fry the gnocchi just slightly to give them a little bit of a brown touch, and we're going to add some sage to this. And one of my favorite Italian specialities is lightly fried sage. See, I've just picked this sage from our garden. It's absolutely beautiful, fresh organic sage. And we've got the Spanish olive oil. You can be quite generous with the olive oil. And once that heats up, you can add pepper to this, a little salt. This is where the main seasoning comes in, actually, is in the frying or in the sauce. If you weren't going to fry, you don't have to fry them. Sprinkle the herb salt like that, and then once it's heated up, you want it to get it hot enough so it sizzles. So then you can just sprinkle in your sage. You can break them a little bit if you want. And just basically start frying those sage leaves, ready for putting your gnocchi in. Alright, so we're getting most of the moisture off the gnocchi, and that'll be perfect for frying them. So you can hear how the sage is starting to sizzle there. So we're going to let that just sizzle a little bit longer before we add the gnocchi, because we don't really want to cook them for too long. If you want to, you can add a little bit of leek as well, which will give you some extra flavour. So these are two plants that have fantastic benefits. Sage has wonderful healing benefits. In fact, the word sage comes from the Latin salvere, which means to heal. And so sage has properties that can heal many ailments in the body or many situations. And leek is warming, so it's very good for the airy light type. It's full of iron. And sage is really very good for the heavier type, the kapha type, who have more earth and more water in the body, more oil, because it's very drying. So you can see the sage is like changing colour now. So we're going to add the gnocchi. We don't want to waste time. And so pop the gnocchi in. So I'm just going to tip them all in there. They do possibly tend to stick to the paper, but don't worry about that. And just get them sorted out in the pan here. And you see, you're already looking at what's going to prompt them to be a delicious dish. One of my favourite dishes of all time. I actually first had this in Venice. I was lucky enough to be in Venice when I was in my 20s. And I popped into this very family type restaurant, and I ordered a gnocchi, and I was blown away. They were very different to this gnocchi because, you know, they were maybe white flour and white potatoes, and they were served with a cheese sauce. So that's a dish that would tend to cause, you know, some in the body, you know, some sort of I was going to say mucus. It's not a very nice word to use in a cooking lesson, but anyway, it doesn't matter. But this is a dish that we're doing today, which is very balancing to the light airy type and balancing to the fiery type, because the sweet flavors and the bitter of the sage is excellent for the fiery type, and the cilantro also excellent because it's so cooling. And then Vata type, the airy type, who tends to have anxiousness or feeling a bit spacey or ungrounded, will be grounded by these wonderful sweet potato, the heaviness, the oil, the sweet flavor, sweet taste, and the salt as well, and the sour of the lemon will all balance the Vata airy type. So if you're feeling a bit ungrounded, or a bit tired, or a little bit weak, then this is a great dish for you. And so you only need to fry these just for, you know, literally 2-3 minutes on both sides, just so that you're getting a very slight browning, and it will look nice as well. The sage tends to stick to the gnocchi, which is lovely, and visually I mean, and if you can smell this, it really is an amazing smell. So you can see there's no need for any gluten. Some people say, oh, you need, you know, gluten flour, wheat flour to make this hold together. But you don't. That is not true. They will still hold together with the almond flour and the gluten-free flour. So no worries with that. So basically, once you see that you've fried them, you know, 2-3 minutes on both sides, you can then pop them on the plate and add your cilantro pesto to complete the dish. Alright. So look at those, listen to those beautiful gnocchi. So just pop them onto your plate. Make a little circle in the middle, like this. I wish you were here to taste these, because I am looking forward to these gorgeous sweet potato gnocchi. I have to tell you that the combination of the sweet potato with the almond flour and a little bit of lemon in the pesto is absolutely dynamite. It's one of the most intriguing, most delicious flavors. So that is your gnocchi, and then pesto, you can serve it right in the middle there if you like, or you can serve it around the edge. It's up to you, whatever looks nice. And there you have it. This is sweet potato gnocchi with almond flour, served with pesto sauce made from cilantro and leek. I'm the Vedic chef. Thanks for tuning in. This is Italian Ayurveda. And then